Hi, my name is Hannah McCalmont, and this is my recording for Unit 4 theme, which is going to be fairies and self-worth. And I will be doing this for first grade. I'm going to be kind of skipping around my subjects because it's easier to understand that way if I go in a certain order. So I'm going to start with language arts because all the other subjects really play off of this Friendship Fairy book. So for language arts, we'll be reading the Friendship Fairy, which is written by Amanda Probbins, and this is a picture of the book. Um, the book, for the introduction, we'll be doing a read aloud of the Friendship Fairy, and we'll be stopping at difficult words to question their meanings, which is one of these standards over here. Students can ask and answer questions to help determine meaning. So this book is a higher level reading, which is why I think it's important to discuss those hard words. For the processing, the students will be thinking of a time where they had to be extra patient in order to receive something awesome. So I gave an example of like waiting for a vacation or a new baby brother or sister. For the mastery, the students will write and illustrate about a time where they had to be extra patient. So this processing, the mastery, all they're going to do is just write like 3 to 5 sentences about this event, sequencing it, the first thing they had to do, what happened next, and then drawing what the event was. For the cross-curricular, this really ties in with art and drama because it enhances the art and drama activities. I played it off of the Friendship Fairy book. I'm not sure if this fine arts element is right, but I used the element of short stories. Granville Hicks says short stories are an attempt to make the reader share in a unique moment, which I thought was what this project would be about students sharing their unique insight. Next, we're going to skip over to music. I'm doing a flashlight choreography for this, and it's to the song The Color of My Dreams, which I used in a previous lesson. But the song The Color of My Dreams is about a fairy who the different colors have to do with different things that are happening in her life. So, like blue or green is the forest that she lives in, red for the bed of the fairy, blue for the colors of the shoes, and stuff like that. So for the introduction, the students will be listening to the song The Color of My Dreams, and they'll watch different examples of flashlight choreography. For processing, the students will practice simple moves with their flashlight. So each student will have a flashlight, and I'll say big circles and show them how to do that, smaller circles, and then we will get to the mastery would be the end choreography for the flashlight dance for this song, which there's the YouTube link for it. There's the standards. They kind of just talk about performing and using the knowledge of music concepts, which is what the students will be doing. This cross-curricular application ties back into language arts. Like I said earlier, the Friendship Fairy talks all about fairies, and I think this song is great for color symbolism, and it also talks about fairies. For the fine arts, the element is color and how it reflects off the ceiling. And also, since the room is dark, you can ask children how they feel because it's a calming, like if you see blue on the ceiling, how do you feel? And also how the colors relate to the story. For art, the art project is called I Am Most Excellent. For the introduction, the students will be asked to think about something that they are very good at or something they excel at, because in the book, The Friendship Fairy, all the fairies that go to India's school have to paint a picture of something that they think that they'll earn their wings for, which is something that they're the most excellent at. For the processing, the students will be drawing what they're excellent at on scratch paper, and then they'll be sharing it with the class. So this is like a rough draft for their mastery. The mastery, the students will construct their final drawing of what they're excellent at on large construction paper, and they'll outline it with black Sharpie, and then they'll use watercolors, which I've kind of given an example. So this student said she's most excellent at growing things in her garden or helping her grandma plant in her garden. So then the standards kind of talked about using observation and investigation. So with like the watercolors, and then also a theme, categorizing artwork, and comparing. Next is drama. For drama, make sure we're still recording. For drama, it's called Show Yourself Off Art Gallery. It's kind of like the wax museum that I did in a previous lesson, but the students will take these art projects that they made, and that will be the introduction for the drama portion, is making that art project. For processing, the students will practice presenting their paintings to a partner. So they'll just get with a partner and then they'll stand up and talk about what they're picking up where I left off. The drama, we're on the drama portion. The art project is the introduction, and then for processing, the students will get with a partner and share their painting and talk about what they excel at. The mastery, the students will perform a speaking art gallery that is open to the public, so they will invite their parents in, and some of the other classes will come in. When someone approaches their art project, all they have to do is talk about their drawing and what it shows and why they think that they're most excellent at that. The standards kind of tie back into the art, categorizing art for a portfolio or a collection. So it'll pretty much talks about like presenting and identifying ways in which elements express physical expression or elements of physical expression. So they're really talking about how they feel and what happened to them. Next, we're going to move over to, I don't know if I did this. Cross-curricular, it ties back into art. Like I said, the students showcase their art project they made. And the fine arts element, I don't know if this is one either, but it's the style, how students display their personal outlook on themselves. So taking this event that they were most anxious for and how they had a lot of patience, I think is just ties back into style. For science, the activity is called Let There Be Light, which I spelled this wrong. The cross-curricular application ties back into music, which I'll explain the activity a little bit. The students will build their flashlights. For the flashlight choreography, for the music element, they'll experiment with different items, like using a Sharpie marker to color the lens of the flashlight, or they could take colored paper and see if that would work, or tissue paper, experiment with different things. For processing, once their flashlights are made, we will discuss the different forms of communication using light and sound. So this video really talks about how people in modern day use light for communication, like stoplights tell you to stop and go, different lights like that, and how like we use communication, the speed of light in computers and all that good stuff. For the masteries, I thought of this. I don't know if it really ties back into science, but I thought it was a fun and unique activity. The students create a signal for their own name. So for the example, I said 2 flashes and 1 big circle is a signal for John. So if John were to create a signal, he turns his flashlight on 2 times and then makes a big circle. And he tells his class that, and then everybody shares their signal. And then the class will try to communicate and guess which person it is based off their pattern. That's how the cross-curricular ties back into music, is they'll use their flashlights, and this activity helps the students understand how when they do put these things in front of the light, they can change the new color or change the light. The fine arts element is light and color. The students experiment with different light patterns and how they can change the colors. Here's the standards, just pretty much doing an experiment of how objects can be seen only when illuminated, and placing different objects in the path of a light, talking about that paper again. For math, the math is called The Smartest Fairy because in the book, the Friendship Fairy is in a contest, her name is India, to see who is the smartest fairy, and she says, oh, well, I'm the smartest fairy. I can count up to 100 flowers in the forest. So for the introduction, the students will go outside and count items up to 120, which ties into the standard of count to 120, starting at any number less than 120. So they could find 120 rocks or flowers or birds or trees or something like that. Then for processing, the students will group items into groups of 10. So like they'll find 10 rocks, 10 flowers, 10 blades of grass, stuff like that. And that also ties into the standards, being able to understand groups of 10. For the mastery, the students will find 3 different objects outside and tape them to a piece of paper in order from shortest to tallest, which ties into these lengths of objects and being able to compare what's short and what's longer than that. For the cross-curricular, it ties back into the language arts in the story that we're reading because, like I said, there's a contest for the smartest fairy, and India wants to earn her smartest fairy wings. The fine arts element, I chose medium because medium means materials used in a sculpture, which the students won't be making a sculpture, but they will be finding items outside that they can use to make a sculpture. So I thought that kind of ties in with an art element. The last and final one for social studies, the activity, I just named it timeline. The students will discuss maps and how to make a map. Picking up where we left off with social studies, the students will discuss maps and how to make one, and then they will then construct a timeline of how to get to a certain place. So the students will pick a place either in their school or in their community, like the library or the post office, and they will create a timeline of events. I gave for an example, first turn left, go straight 10 steps, then turn right, stuff like that. Then for the processing, the students will switch maps with a partner and help them try and figure out where they're going. The mastery, if the students were able to find the place that their partner was talking about, then I consider that being successful in the students' ability to draw a map and their ability to create a timeline. The standard talks about chronological order, which ties back into the timelines, and then the construct a simple map of the classroom, which I kind of broadened that to maps of other places. The students present information, ideas to audience, so that when they're with their partner, they kind of have to explain their map a little bit. This cross-curricular application is for art, because the students will be drawing maps, and they're going to have to try to keep the lines as straight and even as possible, because a hallway is not zigzag, so they cannot draw however they want. They have to try and keep it as close to real life as possible, which ties into my fine art element of using lines. The students use lines when they're drawing their map in order to keep the map as close to real life proximity as possible, so it's easy to be interpreted. And that is my Unit 4. Thank you very much.